primary school days were the hardest. I'm starting to understand I'm different. Kids are starting to notice. My hands are crooked and I walk funny and I struggle writing. Early on I got picked on. I was terrified, and that made the classroom start to feel unsafe.
I just didn't know what to do or how to help her, and I felt like such a useless parent.
I remember leaving Canberra was really hard. I just started to form some really good friendships. I had 3 really close friends in Canberra. For the first 3 years, I kept saying I want to go home. And I was at home, but I just wanted to go back to where I felt comfortable because I was the new kid. All the other kids had done prep together and I was coming in. But I was also really struggling with education. I wasn't someone who naturally fell into studying and fell into school and loved it. I always felt odd. I always struggled. I was always picked on for being different. So it was really hard. And I don't think I found my first close friend till I was in year 3. So that was year 1 to year 3 of basically being alone and struggling. And that was really hard.
She was such a vibrant young child. She was always talking in a positive way. She's never quiet. She's always been a talker. She's always wanting to discuss things that matter. She always struggled with friendships and things, so she was quite alone.
There was very little interaction with other kids. Our friends at that time didn't have kids, so she virtually grew up most of her life talking with adults and knew how to talk.
The primary school days were the hardest. I think for me it was a lot of the fact that we didn't have a diagnosis yet for what I was going through. So I didn't have the supports, where we were not getting that help. It felt sort of like you're throwing a kid in a pool and they're just puppy dog paddling around and they feel like they're drowning. Come year 3, I had an amazing teacher. She started to see some signs, helped my parents get that support. But in that same thing, I'm starting to understand I'm different. Kids are starting to notice that my hands are crooked and I walk funny and I struggle writing and I'm loud and talk in different ways to how they do. So it was a struggle. Once we started to get into that middle school age, things started to get a bit better, but at the same time it got worse. Year 3 was when diagnosis started. It was a 3-year journey. Those were some really hard years. I was very fortunate that my parents, they let me know what was happening, but at the same time they never made it feel like a big deal. But I never really understood fully what that was until I was 18. My parents made the conscious decision not to tell me that I was autistic. And they did that because at the time there was a lot of connotations and they didn't want me to feel like I was being pushed down, I had to fit in a box. They wanted me to be who I was. So I got diagnosed with a rare microdeletion called 1q21.1 and 0.2 microdeletion. Imagine you're in a library and we all have 26 chromosomes, right? So each set of chromosomes is a bookshelf in a library. And if you go to chromosome 1, so that's bookshelf 1, you're going to go to row Q and then book 21 in that list, and you grab out pages 1 and 2. That's what I'm missing. Because of that, it caused a lot of these other conditions like scoliosis, low muscle tone, dyspraxia, or what's other known as developmental coordination delay. Some ICE problems called Duane syndrome, which basically means I struggle with the transition of going from here to here, and my eyes get blurry. Obviously, that was a big problem in primary school and half of my problems because you're writing down what the teacher's telling you to write. I couldn't see what the teacher was writing, and that was half my problem. But the biggest moment was in grade 6, and it was that end of the diagnosis. Once I got diagnosed with the genetic chromosomal deletion, now it's very rare. There's less than 170 people when I was diagnosed. They had to do a bunch of tests to see what things were affected and what wasn't. The MRI I had, it was quite scary. I had blood tests and whatever, but this is a big noisy machine. I was a kid. It was really overwhelming. I have a condition called microcephaly. Just means you have a small head and brain, which is great because it means I use more of my brain than an average person. Yeah, so when I was 18, I went into the pediatricians. When I went in, he gave me the list of all the conditions I had. And it was the first time I'd actually seen the conditions I had. And seeing that list was a very big eye-opener of this explains everything, but also because I didn't know about that, I wasn't defined by it. So I was able to excel in ways that I would never have been able to. So it was a sense of gratitude to my parents to just understand that I didn't have to feel that way. It's become a journey of accepting those things. When I was a kid and I got bullied really bad, those things were bad. They were negative. They were things that I wanted to hide from me because they bullied me because of it. I got picked on. It made my life harder. It made me depressed. It made me anxious. It caused a lot of problems. It was that moment of trying to come to terms with why those things happened, that now I don't have, those people can't hurt me anymore. I can take these labels and I can actually stand up and say, yes, I'm autistic. Yes, I have a rare genetic chromosomal disorder. Yes, I have deformities in my hands, my nose, and my feet. That doesn't make me any less. That's where my disability advocacy, my mental health advocacy has come from. Because now I can stand here and go, yeah, I've been through that. You know, it sucked. It was horrible. I can guarantee you I wasn't this hopeful back then. But at the other end of it, I can also sit here and say, it's okay. As I said, early on I got picked on. Even before I moved to Queensland, I remember first year of school, older kids intimidating the younger kid because I was the smallest, the weakest. They were like trying to stop me from going to a room and doing something I was meant to go and do. And that's like my first memory of bullying. And then I moved to Queensland and, you know, I got picked on, I got teased. But the first thing that happened to me that I really remember here was I got Chinese burns because kids didn't like me and they acted like they were going to shake my hand or like give me a high five. And when I put my hand out, they twisted my arms. I was terrified, like I was year one. So this was really terrifying. These were my own classmates too. So it wasn't like these were older kids. And that made the classroom start to feel unsafe.
I just didn't know what to do or how to help her, and I felt like such a useless parent. I get so angry and I think these rotten little, why do they have to be so mean?
So as parents, there's not much you can do. Like, you can encourage your child as much as you can. I think the biggest thing is that you've got to be supportive with them and make sure they understand that you're safe.
No matter what's happened at school, you can tell us about it.
The diagnosis has started. There was 2 incidences when the diagnosis happened. So all my classmates were sat down and they were told about this. And that was really hard because my parents didn't want to make it known. They never wanted me to feel like I had to have that label. But this was one thing we had to tell for my own safety. And you'd think kids would be scared and would respect that. But instead they got cocky. And I had, you know, the intimidations of, oh, what's going to happen if I throw this ball at you? And comments like that. But there was 2 times when, one, someone tried to trip me over. And the second time was the first time I felt like someone stood up for me. There was an older kid, I was going to youth group and church, and the older kids were very protective. Someone was like, oh, I'm going to push you over and hurt you, and tried to, and I managed to get away and get to the room. But I was clearly upset and I tried to hide it because I knew this person would be able to pick it up straight away. They came over to me and they asked me what was happening, and I just burst out in tears because I was terrified. They said, we're going to go and see them. As we were going, this person that was trying to intimidate me, and they went to push me because like they were like, you know, I'm back and whatever. The person standing beside me stood in front and put their hands up like this and pushed backwards to try and like push their hands away from me and said, you can't hurt her. And it was this big moment for me of, I'm seen. Encourage your kids to stand up, and young people stand up, because being a bystander does a lot more harm. But you will be remembered. I remember every single person's name, face and action, and the words that they said when they stood up for me. So you could make someone's life. Those people changed my life. They made me feel safe. They made me able to come to school in a way that no one else would understand. I will just clarify, not all teachers were the best, but there were some amazing teachers. When I got into high school, it was a lot of that emotional bullying again. And there was a lot of intimidation because at the time I was using a red grandma walker. I started to form this anxiety where literally coming onto school grounds, I would be in the car as soon as I hit the school parking lot and I would just start shaking in tears, hyperventilating. getting me out of the car was like an hour task for my mum. But I had an amazing guidance counsellor and an amazing teacher. The guidance counsellor sat down with my parents in the disability support unit. And at the end of high school, there's a rule that you have to attend for a certain amount of time. So my unexplained absences weren't helping. The teachers said, all you have to do is come to school. You know, I was struggling with some fatigue issues at the time. When the depression and anxiety happened, I was allowed to just go and sit outside the guidance counsellor's office and do my work and just go to class for the instructions and then go back. Go to class for assignments or exam talk and then go back. And then when I got to year 11 and 12, I had this amazing teacher, my film teacher, Mrs. Cook. She honestly stood up for me and she could see where I was struggling and she could tell that I had autism even when it wasn't said. And she allowed me to spend every lunch break in her rooms. And it was just this safe place and she made me feel seen. Struggling a lot and feeling really isolated, and she was helping these kids with these assignments that they were really struggling, and I was in year 12 at the time, and she got me to come in and actually tutor them, and so I'd sit there and help them with their schoolwork. But in doing that, subconsciously I was working on my own work, so that helped a lot. It gave me a lot of skills. Those two people continuously fought for me. They were there for me when no one else was, and they helped me a lot. My message is, even if it's unconventional, finding a passion can change your life. As you do as a kid, and your parents put on the radio or the news, you would always stop them and you'd say, ew, I don't want to watch this, don't put that on. I was in grade 6 this particular time and Mum's like, no, I'm leaving it all because I want to listen to Parliament. I'd always managed to get her to turn it off in the car drive, but I listened and they were talking about the Veterans Gold Cup. So my granddad's a Vietnam veteran, and so obviously I understood the basics of what that meant. And they were trying to say that they wanted to get rid of it. And I was furious because I was like, do you not understand? Do you not understand what they've done? What conditions they have now and how that helps them and makes them be able to survive? And so I got really passionate about that. And I realized when you listen to Parliament Live, you realize it's not just yelling at each other, but it's actually talking on issues that matter. And that's how you change the world, for good or for bad. So I realized if I wanted to make change in the world and I wanted to help people, that's the way to do it. The first thing I ever advocated for was my school's exiting access, which now there's streetlights there, which is amazing. He turned out to be my mentor, but he was the state member at the time, Bruce Saunders. Parents were talking to him at an Easter fair, but I went up to him and they said, you need to fix the school because it's dangerous. No kid can go and people keep dying. Well, nearly dying, but I was very dramatic and I stormed off because I was terrified of what he was going to say. And he said, come back here, and I freaked out because I thought he was going to yell at me. And he's like, your parents tell me you're interested in politics. And I said, yeah, I want to take your job one day because I know that's how to fix things. He said, well, you can take my job. And if you're still interested when you're 14, come back to me and I'll get you involved. And so I got involved into Youth Parliament in 2018 and it changed my life. You know, I was scared of showing up with a walker. I was scared of being seen as a disabled person. At the time I stopped using it even though I was in pain because I didn't want to be seen as that. Mum had it hidden somewhere in case I needed it, but I refused to walk in with it. I was also the youngest person there, and I walk in and these people are just so welcoming. They meet me, they talk to me. They all didn't think I was 14. That shocked them, but I did 2 years of this. I hadn't disclosed the physical, so I was going up a lot of stairs and that wore me out and I tripped. They said, do you need to get your walker? But I was terrified. I was like, I'm not doing this. I was on the phone to Mum, like in tears, and she's like, you need it. So I grabbed it. What was I expecting was not what happened. They all just looked at me and went, hey, can we carry your bag for you? Hey, do you want me to move your walker out of the way? So like once I got into Parliament, they would allow me to sit down and then I'd have random people coming up and say, do you want me to move it out of the way for you? So you don't have to get back up. Hey, like how can we help you? Running over to me if I looked like I was about to trip to help me. But I built so many good relationships and I found people that were like-minded, cared about the world, wanted to make a difference. Total different ends of the spectrum. Funniest story ever. I'm at one end, this other person's at the total opposite end. Great mates, message all the time, totally different politically. One's in the media for bad things sometimes and one's in the media for good, but we support each other. And in that environment, we became really great friends. So yeah, I found a safe place. I found a passion for making changes and realized I could make a difference. And over time, I got way more comfortable, but at first, I felt like another ball was gonna drop. Like internally, I was like waiting for someone to start causing problems, right? But over time, I realized it's okay. And from that, I found a passion. I graduated. That's something that at one point we didn't think was gonna happen. It got really bad and I wasn't attending school and I wanted to drop out at multiple points. Also was happy because I was saying goodbye to a painful chapter in my life and I was finally out of that rut, that place where I felt unsafe. I was hard on my parents. I was back-chatting, hated doing what my parents told me to do, but at the same time, my parents saved me. That safe place at the school, the being allowed to go to the teacher's room or the guidance counsellor. My parents were having weekly meetings with the school, getting daily messages, checking that, saying where my updates were, making sure that I was okay. They were ready. If I needed out, they would have got me out, but they were making sure I got through school.
I'm nearly 54 and bullying's been around as long as I've been alive. I don't think that culture will ever change. It'll always be there. As parents, you've literally got to be there supportive of your kids and say, I'm a safe place. I'm here to help. Whatever you need, you need your kids to talk to you. There's two ways it either goes, they're either there or they're not. And I'd rather have my child with me the whole time of my life. I want to be that safe person. I want to know what's going on to make sure that they understand that I'm safe.
To young people, your parents are probably doing a lot more than what you realise. It's hard, I know, but give them some slack. Also, open up to them because, I was scared, but my parents could tell what was going on. They could tell I wasn't okay. I was very fortunate. My mum comes from a mental health and foster care background, so she understood a lot of signs. She was able to support me a lot. Dad wanted to solve all my problems and he wanted to get up and deal with it, as dads do. But Mum was great at this. She would sit in the car with me and let me just yell, scream, cry, swear, say whatever I needed to say about the day I had gone through to feel those emotions. And that meant more to me than I think they even knew at the time, because that allowed me a safe place to feel things that I couldn't feel at school. They've given up so much for me. When you go through bullying and being picked on and teased, you don't feel very confident in yourself. You don't trust your own judgments. And I had these people telling me, you've got this. You're doing far better than what you think you are.
I can't explain it. To this little girl who just wouldn't stop talking to now.
She is everything she is because she is who she is. She's just an amazing young lady.
The emotions never go away. I also can sit there and look back and I can see how every single moment made me who I am. I have so much resilience now. It helps me be able to go into the career I'm in. Every word that they told me, I was like, I'm going to prove them wrong. And I sit here today going, look at me. I've done everything I said in school, I've done. I represent Headspace at a national level, have advocated on state, national, local levels. I worked in a state member's office. That was my dream job. And I did that when I was 20. I'm married, happy, got a loving family that support me, have friends now. I'm so proud of the fact that I have good friends who support me. My message is, it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to go through things. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry. Eventually you will be. You'll be looking out the other side and you'll be doing far better than you ever thought you could.